Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Here's the video today. Do you need to have clear evidence that your condition manifested during your time in service? In other words, were you diagnosed for it? Did you mention it in your service treatment records or any of your military records for that matter? I'm going to dive into that. Hit the thumbs up for me, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. If you're not a member, consider joining. It does help out the channel immensely, and it helps me to find you guys in the comments. All right, so diving into it, I'm going to break down the three components that I believe are needed absolutely in order to have a successful claim with the VA. Now, for this example, successful means that you are going to get service connected, right? Filing a claim and the VA coming back and going, yes, that's a service connected condition. So the three components are, one, you have to have time in service, okay? Now, the reason why this is important is because it gives you a window of opportunity. So the window of opportunity is when you join to when you get out. Now, for those that are smart out there and know a lot of this stuff, there are other opportunities outside of that window through presumptive conditions. Barring that, we're going to look at non-presumptive conditions that are in your window of opportunity here. So your time in service gives you your entry and exit dates, your window of opportunity. Number two, you must have a diagnosed condition. Not having a diagnosed condition means you don't have a condition. So it doesn't matter if you know that you have it, right? I know I have migraines. I know that I have GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, bad heartburn, right? I know I have these. I don't need to go to a doctor to figure it out. Well, when you go to file your VA claim, you do need to have these things documented and diagnosed by an actual doctor. So that's the number two piece. Now, a little caveat to that number two item, the diagnosis, is your condition must be chronic in nature or have some sort of residual effects. It must be an ongoing problem. The VA is not going to rate you and pay you for something you had once and it went away and now you're 100% good. So it has to be chronic in nature or have some sort of residual effects. The number three thing is what we call a nexus. And if you're watching this video, you've probably watched 1,000 VA related videos, related to disability claims and all that stuff. Nexus. Nexus is the link between your condition and your time in service. Now, what it's not only this. It's not, the VA is not saying, show me that the military caused this issue. Now, obviously, if the military caused the problem, then sure. But it is much more broad than that. And that's why I like to use the verbiage of show me that the condition was manifested during your time in service, right? Show me that it first reared its head during your time in service. Okay, it could be migraines. And maybe you come from a family history of migraine sufferers, right? Everybody started getting migraines at age 20. You joined the military at 18. Sure enough, 2 years in, you start getting migraines. Okay, you came in on a clean slate, nothing wrong with you. Now you have migraines. They manifested during your time in service. There's probably no in-service event that caused your migraines, right? It would be hard to point to anything specific. So when it comes to a lot of different ailments that we can file for, there is no clear in-service event to look for. Now, on the other hand, if you rolled in a Humvee and damaged your back or your neck or your leg or whatever, that's an in-service event, the rolling of the Humvee, that caused the issue, right? So it's not one or the other. It could be anything. Show me that it manifested in any means during your time in service. So those are the three components. So now that we got that out of the way, I'll segue into the not having anything in your records. So for those that don't know, the easiest way to create that nexus, prove the link in service, is by showing that you talked about it, got mentioned it, got diagnosed, or something during your time in service. Now, let's say that you don't have any of that. Let's use some sort of injury or migraine headaches or the gastroesophageal reflux disease, all that stuff, and we'll use that as in the examples here. So let's say that you have migraine headaches or GERD, right? Now, chances are, because these are conditions that you already know, that you know what it is. You're not baffled with the fact you have a migraine. You know it's a migraine. What are you going to do? You're going to, if you're in service, you're going to go to your medic or your corpsman and you're going to say, hey, can I have some Motrin? I got a horrible headache, migraine, right? They're going to give you Motrin or aspirin or whatever, or both, and call it a day. They don't write anything down. They don't say, hey, I gave Joe Snuffy 1,600 milligrams of Motrin today. They don't write it down because it's over the counter. It's not really a controlled substance, right? So, and same thing with the fact that you could go, if you're stateside or even overseas, but not in a combat zone, right? You can go buy it at the grocery store. You could buy a big tub full of Motrin or Advil or whatever, ibuprofen, and aspirin or Excedrin or whatever, or Aleve, and you could pop those and call it a day. So it's a very normal thing to do. So you may not go document that while you're in, because you're just self-medicating and moving on, drinking water, right? Same thing with your GERD, right? You could not list any of that during your time in service. You could actually go to your medic or corpsman and ask for some, Rolaids or Tums or whatever, antacids, right? Generic version, and pop those, and you can go to the store and buy them and deal with it, right? You could wait years before you actually go get diagnosed, right? And you could only be going and getting diagnosed simply because you're thinking, I want to file a claim with the VA for this condition that I've had since I've been in, but I've just been going to the grocery store and buying, headache medicine, right? So my Advil, my whatever, right? Or you're buying your Tums and your Mylanta or whatever, and you're dealing with it. But now you want to file a claim. So now you go to your doctor, you actually get diagnosed. They may want to prescribe you something, right? They might want to prescribe you something for your headaches. They might want to prescribe you, Prilosec or something for your gastroesophageal reflux disease. But now you have your diagnosis. Okay, so now you've got the number 2 spot taken care of. You got your diagnosis, and you have your time in service, right, which is your window of opportunity. But during that time that you're with your doctor, right, you could be having that conversation of, so, Joe Snuffy, tell me, when did you first start experiencing your migraines? When did you first start experiencing your GERD? Oh, well, that was easy. That was back 2 years after I joined. That was 19 whatever, right, or whenever you joined. And as long as you're giving them that date range in your window of opportunity, right, your time of service, you are now setting yourself up for this claim to be successful. Now, you're probably, in this case, going to want to also have your doctor write you what's called a Nexus Letter. Now, does every claim need a Nexus Letter? No, because you can prove, if you had it documented during your time in service, you can prove the nexus by supplying that evidence. However, in this video, we're talking about you don't have anything listed. So you would need a Nexus Letter, or it would be extremely helpful to have a Nexus Letter. So, highly suggested. Get that doctor to write you a Nexus Letter explaining that your condition is, the threshold is at least likely as not. And the rules are, if evidence is in equipoise, meaning that it's equal on both sides, the VA is supposed to rule in your favor. Now, I'm a fan of, hey, look, doc, can you write in the letter that it's more than likely, just to go a little bit further, right? If they're willing to do that, great. If they're like, well, I don't really know, well, then can you go with at least likely as not? I mean, that's a coin flip, right? Any doctor should be comfortable with saying that in writing. So you get the Nexus Letter discussing your condition, maybe any sort of medications you're on for it, and that in their opinion, it is at a minimum, at least likely as not, preferably more than likely, caused, made worse by, probably skip that one, unless you have it documented prior to coming in, then you have to say that it's made worse by. So you can have them state that it was either caused by your time in service or manifested during your time in service. Those are my 2 favorites. So utilize that verbiage in that Nexus letter. The Nexus letter is used to help establish your nexus, the link between your condition and your time in service. Now, you can also follow it up a little bit further with what they call buddy statements. Now, buddy statements don't necessarily have to be from a buddy. It just has to be from people that you knew during your time in service that could attest to your condition, right? So maybe it's a spouse. Your spouse could write a letter saying, hey, you know, we were together and I witnessed bouts of GERD, migraine headaches, limping around, whatever, right? Bad back, bad neck, carrying, you know, Alice packs back in the day, right? With the metal bar back there that's just jamming into your back. You know, I was mortars, and for those that know, 81 millimeter mortars, and the backpack, right? You have your backpack on. So here's the backpack, and then if you're carrying the base plate straps to the back. So it's just even more weight pulling backwards. So if you have any sort of evidence of your MOS being able to cause certain conditions, utilize that to share with A, the VA, and B, also with your doctor, to have them be able to be very comfortable explaining their rationale in that Nexus letter. So you can get those buddy statements from your spouse, from friends, family. You know, maybe you were on leave and you saw family and they could attest to it. And then also, of course, your buddies, people that you had served with back in the day, if you're still in contact, you know, and they knew, right? Believe me, I would write letters for the people that I had to share rooms with that would be just snoring and halfway dying through the night, throwing boots at them, that type of stuff for sleep apnea, right? So there are ways to establish that nexus. That becomes the issue, right? So if you do not have your evidence in your military files, your service treatment records, or any mention of it anywhere, and no diagnosis, nothing during your time in service, the nexus is the piece you have to establish. I call it building a bridge back to your time in service. The two biggest ways are your Nexus letter from your doctor. Utilize your MOS as a way to help justify it if you can, if it makes sense, and getting those buddy letters, those buddy statements that also do it. You can also write a letter yourself. Hey, I used to, and I've done it myself, I would explain in my letter that I would go to my corpsman and get Motrin. I would get antacid, that type of stuff for my GERD and for my migraines. And this was never written down, right? And then I would also go to the grocery store and buy it, right? So, and I just self-medicate. I didn't really know that there was anything else that could happen, right? What else can you, what can you do? Really, you could just deal with it. So why am I going to go to the doctor and spend money to see a doctor when I already know what it is and I already know what I need to do to deal with it? So you could, obviously, that's not exactly how the letter sounded, but it gives you the idea of what was written in it. So with that, we'll go ahead and conclude it there. I hope this gave you some sort of insights on you know, how you can deal with it and if you actually do need to have that in there. So the answer is no, you don't need to have it in your medical records. You can build the bridge back and go that route. So thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.